Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to start a little bit, waiting for a few folks to come back in, and Roz has joined us.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
What's this?
We're going to start in about 2 minutes, everyone.
So talk to United Healthcare and take advantage of the wide choice of plans, including AARP Medicare Corporate Advantage Plan from United Healthcare. If you combine your hospital coverage with prescription drug coverage and more, offer a low monthly premium.
Okay. Just a reminder, you all coming in, that this is for the parents. Our scholars will come in at 11, so this is for our parents. And also we can mute our mics, and we can mute the mics for us. And so just make sure we have our parents onto this session. Roz, you want to say anything, get us started, or?
No, Roger, you go ahead and lead today.
Okay.
I'm struggling this morning.
I understand. Good morning, everyone. I'm glad you all came on. This is our last session for this semester for BMW, and we decided to, with all the different things going on in our city and our Commonwealth right now, we thought that this would be a good time to have some conversations about helping our students get through some of the challenges that they're experiencing with virtual school, COVID, violence in the city. We've had a number of murders recently, all these different things, and our scholars not be able to interact with each other socially. And so we want to just spend a little time talking about how we can help you all help our scholars. And so we did today, decided today, we brought in someone from the mental health field to do a presentation and allow you all to ask some questions. Also, this morning we have Mrs. Danelle Lewis. She's from the Houston area. I met Danielle about 3 years ago, and she's an educator and an educational consultant. And she does a lot of work on mental health and working with youth and parents in this particular area. And so she's going to probably talk about 35, 40 minutes of some tips that parents can do to help their young men. And then we're going to just open up for our Q&A, and we probably will have to, we have about 64 people in here, so it's probably going to be through chat. And so you can put your questions in the chat. I will monitor the chat, and then I'll I'll just read some of those questions to Danielle near the end. You all will kind of slide off around 10:50, and then our scholars are going to come into the same Zoom link at 11. And so she has something different. We're going to talk more about self-care for them when they come on. So we'll go to about 10:50. You all sign off, and then encourage our scholars to sign in with Zoom, and we'll go from there. And so once again, I want to welcome Danielle, and they're all yours.
Good morning. Thank you guys so much for having me today. I am allowing more people to enter. So if you would just give me a second, I'm accepting people. Like Dr. Cleveland said, I'm from this great state of Texas. I'm in Southeast Texas. I am a youth mental health first aid instructor. And today we will be talking about some mental health disorders and how we can see those in our children and how we can also help them. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. It appears that everyone who was in the waiting room is in. I'm going to continue to try to monitor that while I'm in my PowerPoint. Excuse me. Is everyone able to see the PowerPoint at this time?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, today our goals are where we'll be talking about warning signs of depression, alienation, anxiety, and eating disorders in adolescents, effective communication techniques for exploring these issues with children, and strategies for assessing appropriate resources in the community. If at any time you have a question, please feel free to turn off your microphone, turn off mute, and ask your question, or you can put it in the chat. Let's see, I'm trying to figure out why it's not going to the, okay, here we go. What is a mental disorder? A mental disorder or illness is a diagnosable illness that affects the person's emotional state and behavior. It is also going to disrupt their ability to work, attend school, carry out daily activities, and engage in satisfying relationships. We have to remember that a mental disorder is something that is diagnosed by a trained professional, someone who holds a license to identify a disorder. I know a lot of times that we like to say, oh, such and such is bipolar, or such and such has these different type of disorders. That puts a stigma on mental health. And so what we like to do is always make sure that person has been diagnosed with something. We don't want to just throw out those words in day-to-day conversation, because they can be offensive to those who are actually suffering from that disorder. I do have a few more people waiting. Let me admit them. Sorry. So what are some of those disorders? What do they look like? Some of those disorders are ADD, ADHD, ODD, and we will see those in a lot of our youth. Anxiety disorders, that is a huge one right now when we're dealing with COVID and we're dealing with being in the house. It increases anxiety. At some point, we're going to have some PTSD from being home all the time with COVID. And so that anxiety is going to also play a role then. Bipolar disorder, depression. Depression is a huge one also right now, because depression and anxiety comes hand in hand. So we're going to have, and even with adults, I mean, we're experiencing depression from being home and not being able to interact with each other. Thankfully, we have Zoom and we have other outlets like FaceTime. We have Google Duo that is also gives us the ability to interact with other people. But eventually, the longer we're staying in, the weather conditions change. It's getting darker earlier. It's cold. Those things will increase depression. There's also eating disorders, psychosis, and substance use disorders. So when we look at the data, it shows us that anxiety disorders affect 8.3% of our adolescents between the ages of 13 and 18. Behavior disorders affect 9.6%. Mood disorders, which would be your bipolar disorders, those affect 11.2%. And the substance use disorders, there's not enough data for that because substance abuse usually appears in college age students when they're having additional stressors. Of course, now that is changing. A lot of times we're starting to see that behavior in high school students, but in college age students is when we start seeing the substance use disorders becoming into play. They may drink a little bit more. They may be participating in marijuana. They may be exploring a little bit more. And so we don't have enough data on that to actually say that that is the severe impact. The severe impact is when they're actually seeking treatment. So these 13 to 18-year-olds are seeking treatment in these particular disorders. I do have more participants. If you would just give me a second, I'm sorry. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. So I have some more data here. When we look at the youth with mental health disorders, we see that in females, it's more. The percentage is higher, 17.3% when we're dealing with females. And that's typically because of the changes that women go through in this age. And so they tend to have a little bit more be more depressed in this age group because they're going through so many changes. They're going through physical changes. They're going through hormonal changes. And so they tend to have a little bit more depression. Also, they start looking into identity. Women tend to look more into what we're looking like, how we're dressed, if we're pretty, if we're not pretty, what do people think of us? And so it causes a little bit more depression, and that's more, that's seen more in the female population. And then when we look at age 17, it goes up to 15.1%. And again, that just shows that over time, depression and then life situations also come into play. I have more people joining. If you just give me a second. Thank you. So let's look at the onset of these disorders. And the onset again is, I'm sorry, I have to close out. Thank you for waiting. Okay, sorry about that. The onset is, this is when they start receiving treatment. So do we see these behaviors in students or in our children before this? Of course. Sometimes we might see this, they're in the 3rd grade. Sometimes they might be in kindergarten. So this is only the age the average youth seek treatment. So we look at anxiety disorders. The age is 11. So at 11 years old, we have a lot of students that are going out and getting treatment for anxiety. When we look at the educational situation at 11, I know here in the state of Texas, they start to take standardized tests. And those tests will increase their anxiety because if you don't pass it in 3rd grade, you can't go to 4th grade. And so I think we have those things that are affecting those kids at age 11. Eating disorders at age 15. Again, this is when our young ladies, they start to identify that they're changing. So they may not be changing like Brittany and Alexis may not be changing at the same rate. And so Brittany may decide, oh, well, I'm going to stop eating because I'm a little bit heavier than Alexis. And so they start changing their behaviors to actually, because of their appearance. And so that's when those eating disorders. Again, substance use disorders is a little bit older. That's the college age. Schizophrenia is a little bit older. That's when they start exhibiting more behaviors and start seeking that treatment. Bipolar is age 25 and depression is age 32. Of course, our youth we do see depression a lot younger. Again, this is the age in which they actually go and seek treatment. And so we have that big gap between the onset of when I actually start having depression, which may be 13, 14 years old, and now it's affecting everything in my life. And so now I have to actually seek the treatment for depression. And that's when they're typically seeking the treatment. So what is depression? Depression is a mood disorder that affects 9% of youth ages 12 to 17. And in that disorder, we see sadness, loss of interest and enjoyment, and for some, irritability and a tendency to snap. When you're depressed, they're not typically wanting to snap. They don't want to be bothered. And so that is a response of how they're feeling. And so when we look at these mood disorders, we don't want to put them all into one big bundle. But we do want to recognize that we do have kids that are being affected by depression. Rather, that's because of divorce in the family. They may be blaming themselves. The parents may not be speaking. They may have had a death in the family. And so these things will affect our children. And when we're looking at depression. So what are some signs and symptoms? Again, the sad mood, loss of enjoyment and interest, lack of energy, thinking about death or wishing to be dead, withdrawing from family, snapping at family members, irritability, picking fights, use of alcohol or other drugs to deal with emotional symptoms. So now when we're looking at the signs and symptoms, just because someone is withdrawing from family, they may not be depressed. Sometimes people just don't want to be around family. So we want to look at everything that they're experiencing. We don't want to jump to conclusions, but we definitely want to observe and monitor the behaviors that we're seeing. Some of the risk factors, of course, family history. If you have a family history of depression, you definitely want to observe your child for depression. You don't want to say, oh, you're depressed, but definitely look for those signs, look for those symptoms, look for those behaviors that you have seen in maybe other family members. Look for the behaviors, any change in behavior with your child, you know, it's good to monitor and ask questions. You know, what's going on with you? I noticed that you're in your room more now. Is something happening at school? You know, ask them the questions to see what is causing the behavior. Parental separation or divorce, family poverty and social disadvantage. That's a huge one, because if kids do not have what they're seeing their peers have, sometimes they will just become depressed because their peers have more and they don't understand why my friend got an Xbox for Christmas and maybe I had a pair of socks. Not recognizing that that pair of socks actually has more value than that Xbox because it was actually a need and not something that you wanted. Being bullied, again, COVID and certain medications. Any questions so far? Okay, thank you. And I still have people in the waiting room. I'm letting them in really quick. All right. Thank you guys for waiting. So now we get to how do we respond whenever our child is having an issue, excuse me, with depression. The key is attitudes, and that make sure you're asking them with a non-judgmental attitude. We don't want to pass judgment. We don't want them to feel like they're being judged because they're depressed. Attitude of acceptance means respecting the young person's feelings and experiences as valid. So validating them on what they're feeling. I understand that you're feeling depressed. Let's talk about why you're feeling this way. Genuineness, meaning what you say and do, shows the young person that it's accepted. So you don't have to say, I know when we were growing up and, you know, if our parents thought we were depressed, they were like, get over it, shake it off. You know, it wasn't taken as seriously as it should have, because in our population, you know, we're people of resilience. We learn to just shake things off and keep pushing. And so the key is to not always tell them to just shake it off. Like, actually taking time to listen and feel and see what they're feeling. Empathy means being able to imagine yourself in their place, showing them you truly heard and understood. So I understand that you're feeling depressed because we're going through a divorce. Let's talk about that a little bit more. So just making sure that they know that they're a part of the day-to-day situations that are going on. Some strategies that we can use for depression is exercise. That always helps to increase the endorphins and make you feel a little bit happier. Relaxation training, such as meditation and yoga. Avoid the use of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. When we start incorporating alcohol, tobacco, and other things, what happens is we tend to end up being more depressed. We may feel better for 5 or 10 minutes, but once those substances wear off, then we do end up feeling more depressed. Proper nutrition and sleep. I also included some web sites here. If you want, I'm not sure if I can send maybe a list of these later. I'll get with Dr. Cleveland on the best way to give these sources to you guys. But I do have some resources here for depression. There's a depression screen if you want to see if your child is maybe having some depression issues. Families for depression awareness, those are some things, some resources. And then also the Mind Foundation is where you can go and do some meditation training, just some relaxation techniques. Our next disorder is anxiety. Anxiety is when you're anxious, stressed. They may express themselves as feeling wound up, nervous, worried, or on edge. It will interfere with their academics, activities, and family and social reactions. Anxiety right now is, I think, a huge one, because when we think about COVID, you know, you get I've read a lot of scholar articles, and what's happening is when people are diagnosed with COVID, their anxiety automatically increases. And the reason it increases is because of everything they're hearing on the media. And so you don't automatically think that, oh, I have COVID, I'm going to be well. You know, the human response is, I have COVID and I'm going to be really, really sick. And so the anxiety of that causes us sometimes to feel sicker than we are, or it causes us to be more worried and have more symptoms of any illness that we should have. That could be with COVID, that could be with PTSD, that could be with any situation that we're involved in, where the anxiety actually makes it seem like it's worse. It makes us feel like it's worse. Here in Texas, we have hurricanes. So every time there's a hurricane coming in Southeast Texas, your anxiety rise, because we have experienced what happens with a hurricane. And so even though this hurricane may be a category 1 in the minds of the residents, it feels like every hurricane is a category 5. It feels like every hurricane will have lots of flooding. And it's anxiety that has built up over experience. So what are some signs? Pounding heart, chest pain. Sometimes people with anxiety feel like they're having a heart attack. Decreased concentration in memory, anger, feeling on edge, avoidance of situations, distress in social situations. When we're thinking about right now how everyone is isolated, think about when we go back to actually being around each other. The anxiety of going to dinner, the anxiety of maybe going shopping in the mall, or going to the airport. So those anxieties have changed over time. We're no longer going to be as comfortable as we once were. So now every situation that you're in, every situation that your child is in, they're going to be thinking about the what if. And so the what ifs is what brings on anxiety. Again, in order to have an anxiety disorder, it would be something that's diagnosed, but you can still have these signs and symptoms. What are some risk factors of anxiety? Being female, experience of traumatic events, family history, historical trauma, racism, things, police brutality, those things are things that can cause trauma. Although we have not experienced it, however, seeing it on television, witnessing it from other people's point of view will allow us to have that anxiety. Police get behind us or get behind your child, they may immediately become anxious. And it may not necessarily be because they've experienced something negative from law enforcement. It could just be because of what they have seen on television. Side effects of medications. So when someone has anxiety, we definitely want to make sure that we're listening non-judgmentally. Talk with them and listen carefully. Be aware of your body language. You don't want to look aggressive. You want to be relaxed. You want to also be breathing. You don't want to talk at a high pitch. You want to make sure that you're talking in a calming tone, because you don't want to do anything that's going to agitate them from the state that they're in. Allow silences. Be patient and don't interrupt. So when someone has anxiety, they may be really, really hyped up. And so you want to allow them that time to just relax and to be able to communicate what it is that they're going through. Give them hope. Never tell them, oh, you'll be okay. Oh, this is just a phase. Let them know, yeah, you will be okay. But at this particular moment, you're having anxiety. Let's talk about why you're having this anxiety. So we don't want to blow it off. When they say give it hope, it just means don't blow it off. Don't just say, oh, just go wash dishes. You know, that's going to help with your anxiety. Go do this. Avoid confrontation. Try not to argue with them at that time. Give them time to relax. Give them time to unwind a little bit, and then talk about it if you have to. What are some strategies that you can use in your home if you're seeing that you, your spouse, or even your child is having lots of anxiety? Having a consistent home or family routine. Right now, that's a hard one because everything is changing day to day on what's going on in the home environment. I know in Kentucky, y'all are on lockdown. In Texas, it's kind of free. So when we don't have any, today, the school may be open here in Texas. Tomorrow, we may be shut down for 3 days for them to sanitize. And so it's not any consistency going on in that. And so that definitely increases anxiety in students because they don't know what to expect next. And so sometimes having a visual schedule with younger kids will help, especially if you know that today is going to be different than it was yesterday. Having that visual schedule laid out for them to let them know what to expect, and that will help minimize the anxiety. Experience less stress. Increase social skills, which is kind of impossible right now to have a lot of socialization, but there are platforms where we can increase our social skills. Physical activity, go for a run. I know the gyms are closed. Do a quick, some squats. I always tell people, do a few push-ups, a few squats, and some jumping jacks, and you will definitely feel a little bit better. You will definitely increase the endorphins and minimize the anxiety. And then yoga. Yoga is another big one. I practice yoga at least 3 times a week. And so that's one of the ones that it's actually taking time for yourself and processing what it is that you're going through. So definitely try to take some time out with your child on doing yoga. You can find free yoga classes on YouTube. I am a member of Peloton. If there's anybody out there that have a Peloton membership, they have a 30-day free trial. You can go on there and do some yoga and some meditation classes. So there's so many different platforms that you can use to do those activities. Here are some helpful resources: Anxiety Disorders Association of America and Mental Health America. And of course, the Mind and Body Medicine, which you can do yoga from there as well. Now we're going to talk about eating disorders. When we're thinking about eating disorders, I want you to think about what a child is going through from the ages of 11 to 15. And now, even when we have social media, what is going on social media that is changing what our kids are seeing? And so if they're on social media and let's say they're looking at Kim Kardashian, just for an example, they start having unrealistic expectations about what they're supposed to be looking like. What am I supposed to look like? And so they're maybe 15 pounds over what she weighs, or they're 15 pounds over their peers. And so they start to think, well, why am I overweight and she's not? Or why is he overweight and I'm not? And so they start figuring out ways to actually lose weight. And so they go into these extreme diets. And some of those extreme diets would be like bulimia. And so what they do with that is they eat and then they force themselves to throw up. And so you may notice that they're overeating. You may notice that as soon as they eat, they run to the restroom. So those are things that you want to look for when you're thinking about eating disorders. You have anorexia, where they just stop eating completely. And so they start losing a rapid amount of weight, and it's very unhealthy for them. But it gets to the point where they're out of control because they want to look so different. They want to not look like how everyone else think they look, or how in their minds they could be 110 pounds, but in their minds they're overweight. And so it's definitely about what their image is of them at that and of their body image. So what are some signs and symptoms of an eating disorder? Dieting behaviors, going on extreme diets. They may decide randomly they want to juice. Oh, I'm going on a juicing diet for three weeks, and 3 weeks, is a little long if that's all you're doing is juicing. Or I've seen where people go on water diets for an extended period of time. And so any extreme dieting that you notice in your students, or in your kids, you want to definitely take a look at that. Binge eating. Are they overeating? Every time you see them, they're eating something. Vomiting or taking laxatives. Avoidance of meals, especially in social settings. Oh, I'm not hungry. I don't want to eat. Weight loss or fluctuation, fainting. They may always say, oh, I'm fat. I'm too fat. Or I don't want to gain any more weight. And so we have to be careful to not, when someone gains weight, we always want to say, oh, you gained a little weight. Sometimes that's not always the best approach, because we never know what that person is thinking and what they're experiencing. And that one statement could be the one thing to push them over. And they will deny having an eating problem. Oh, I'm fine. I'm just not hungry. Don't worry about it. I'm good. Sometimes those people are overly obsessed with exercise. Every time you see them, they're working out. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm doing 10 squats. Or what are you doing? I'm doing 10 push-ups. They never take a break from exercising because they're always trying to lose weight. What are some risks of eating disorders? Obesity, a history of mental illness, low self-esteem, anxiety, the pressures to be slim, and comments about eating weight and body shape. Any questions so far? Okay. How do we help our children if we notice that they are experiencing an eating disorder? The main thing is to be supportive. Listen to their concerns, see their behavior as an illness rather than a willful or self-indulgent, and encourage them to seek professional help. When you have an eating disorder, you do need to go through some counseling, excuse me, to actually find out the root of the disorder. A lot of times they can't just overcome eating disorders just on their own. They have to go through some intense cognitive therapy to get behind the actual reasons that they are overeating or undereating. Some strategies for eating disorders is the positive self-talk. Teach them to know that they are beautiful no matter how they look. Teach them to know that God made everyone different. Everybody's not designed to be a size 2, and that being a size 14 or whatever is okay. Teach them that you are beautiful no matter what size you are beautiful. Increase their self-esteem and provide a good support system. Be available for them. If they go to school and someone tells them that they're fat and they come home and say, such and such said I'm fat, or such and such said I'm too skinny. No, you're perfect. You know, making sure that that you're instilling that into them. Some helpful resources about eating disorders is the National Eating Disorder Association, Eating Disorder Anonymous. So now we're going to talk about suicide. This is one that we see a lot of. And actually suicide and what I've been seeing has been happening a lot earlier than we perceived. In Houston, in one of our larger cities in Texas, we have been seeing suicide in the elementary population. And so when you think about second graders and third graders actually going through with the act of suicide, we have to think about what is causing them to want to end their lives, because we have to educate our children that suicide is a permanent act. Suicide is not temporary. And a lot of times kids don't understand that. They think, oh, you know, they get mad, I'm going to go kill myself. And, you know, as parents, we blow it off. We're like, oh, no, you're not. You know, that's unacceptable behavior. But they have to be educated that suicide is permanent. If you do follow through with the act of suicide, then it is permanent and you will not see us again and we won't see you again. And so it's a very, very touchy situation, but it's definitely something that kids have to know is permanent, and that once you go there, it's no turning back. And so the key is to make sure they understand that and to teach them ways in order to express their emotions without using those words. So when we look at suicide, 16% of high school students have seriously thought about suicide. 13% have made a plan to attempt suicide, and 8% have made an attempt during the previous year. When we talk about making a plan, when we do the mental health first aid training, and we are dealing with anyone who is saying that they are, oh, I want to end it all, we look for clues. So when we talk about making the plan, do you have a gun? Where would you go? And so you want to ask those questions in order to find out if they're actually trying to follow through with this act, or if it's something they're just talking about. Most people who are going to commit suicide, they do have a plan. They will say, oh, I'm going to cut my wrist. Oh, I'm going to go jump off the Golden Gate Bridge. And so you want to make sure that you ask those questions so you can find out what they're thinking at the time. And if they have a plan, then that makes that situation 10 times more critical, because we know that they're actually really thinking about committing this act. And suicide is preventable. Excuse me. A lot of times when people are thinking about suicide, all it will take is one person to say, what's wrong? Let's talk about it. I care. I love you. You know, you are valuable to me. And so suicide is a preventable act, but we have to identify the signs and symptoms of suicide in order to recognize and to prevent it. So having a conversation. If we know that our kids are experiencing depression, anxiety, and that they may become suicidal, we want to ask, how are you feeling? What have you seen? Express any concerns. Don't initiate or focus on changing the behavior or perspective or symptoms, and use I statements so that it's not accusatory. So you don't want to say, you always say you want to, or you do this, or you do that. You want to say, let me check our waiting room really quick. Sorry. You want to say, I, at one point felt like I wanted to end my life. At one point, I felt like it was too much. This is what I did in order to, fix it. So you want to make sure that they know that they're not alone whenever you are dealing with someone who has the thoughts of committing suicide. I'm sorry, I'm trying to allow people who are in the waiting room to get in. If you would just give me 1 second, please. Thank you guys for waiting. Important signs that a young person may be suicidal. So what are we looking for? They're threatening to kill themselves. They're seeking access to pills, weapons, or any other means. So they may say, hey, you have some sleeping pills? They may, if you have a gun around, they may be seeking the gun, or they may, all of a sudden, you notice a knife is missing from the knife drawer. Talking about or writing about death. So they will maybe have it in their journal. A lot of times they will write letters. They may be talking about getting rid of property. So you have to look for those things. Seeking revenge, anger, or rage, acting recklessly. Oh, they're going to go racing. They never raced before, but all of a sudden they want to go to a race, go racing. Feeling trapped, withdrawing from friends, having a dramatic mood change, sleeping all the time, being anxious, and giving away prized possessions. That's a huge one. If all of a sudden your child comes in and they're like, I want you to have this, and it's something that they really value, ask questions. Why do you want me to have it? What do you know, don't just say, oh, thank you. If it's something really valuable, they've been holding on for 7, 8 years, and all of a sudden they're like, here, I want you to have this because I'm not going to be here anymore. They usually add on and give you a little bit more clues, but definitely ask questions. Doesn't always mean that every time they say something or give you something that they're suicidal, but definitely take that time to ask those questions, because it may just be a sigh of help. They just want some help. They want to talk about what it is they're going through. How to talk to someone who is suicidal. Discuss your observation. So tell them, I noticed that you are looking sad. I noticed that you have been talking a lot about ending life. You've been talking a lot about not being here. And find out what's going on. Appear confident, as this can be reassuring. You know, let them know that you love them. Let them know that you care. Let them know that maybe even if you have experienced those thoughts, let them know that, and that it's not the all in, that situations happen, but you can do this to overcome. Tell the person that thoughts of suicide are common and they don't have to act on it. Involve the person in decision making and what should be done. If they, you know, do you want to see counseling? Maybe counseling is a good option for you. What if I come with you to counseling? And if they are aggressive, have a weapon, or anything that is life threatening, always call 911 and get immediate help. Never try to get involved with, I know sometimes we let emotions get involved, but if they have a weapon, call 911. Or if you have someone that you know that is mental health trained, call them, get them on the phone. If they have a therapist, get them on the phone and allow them to help talk them through it until you can get them additional help. So how do we assess for the risk of suicide? If there is a risk of suicide, take immediate action to help the person. Don't leave them alone. Ensure they have safety at all times, and discuss if this has happened in the past. It could be your niece, it could be your nephew, it could be your child. Find out if their best friend maybe have known something about it and have been there for them before with this. Don't use guilt or threats. Well, if you do this, then me and your mom and dad are me and your mom are gonna get a divorce. Or if you do this, then you won't get to go to prom. Or if you do this, then you don't get to go to the mall. Don't try to manipulate them out of the act, because at that point their mind is telling them something different, and they may actually go through with the decision. And always seek 911 if it gets too far. So how do we de-escalate the situation? How do we get our child or our loved one, if they are in a situation where they are thinking about committing the act of suicide? You want to speak slowly and confident with a gentle, caring tone. Don't argue or challenge them. Don't threaten them. Don't raise your voice. Talk in a nice, calm tone. Use positive words. So everything you say needs to have a positive tone to it. Try to stay as calm. Sometimes it's not that easy, but try to stay as calm as possible. Don't restrict the person's movement. So that may mean just allow you stand on one side of the room, they sit on the other side of the room, and you're allowing them to like pace the wall or whatever it is that relaxes them during this time. And try to be aware of what may increase the person's fear and aggression. So if they're wanting to commit this act because they're mad at their mom, don't bring mom in, because mom may actually trigger them to actually follow through with the act. And take a break from the conversation. Allow them to have some little breaks in order to not follow through. Things to consider: understand the symptoms for what they are and empathize, with how the person is feeling about his or her experiences. Don't confront them. Don't criticize. Take delusional comments personally. Don't use sarcasm. That's a huge one. That's not a moment to make a joke. You know, if they have gone that far, it's definitely a serious moment. And don't do any judgment. Don't pass judgments about what they're experiencing. Try to understand, try to empathize with them. Here are some helpful resources: the suicide hotline, suicide prevention line, and there's also one for hearing impaired. What are some coping strategies for any of these disorders? Spend time with happy, positive people. The people you surround yourself with is going to help you. If you're depressed and you surround yourself with happy people, you're going to be probably 9 times out of 10, a little bit more happier. So the people that you are around does impact your emotions and your behavior. Avoid chat rooms and social media sites where they talk about suicide or talk about any of the other disorders, because they will place things into your child's mind. So they have to be very careful about what they're allowing to come in. Read inspiration quotes and coping statements. And so maybe give them a book, like some scriptures. You can do all things through Christ that strengthens you. You got this. Anything that's going to be positive for them to overcome and get through what they're going through. Think about good things in the life as often as you think about your problems. So don't always focus on the problems. You know, you may be having a bad day, but you have a car. You have food to eat. You were able to take a shower. So focus on the positives. Find ways to smile and laugh throughout the day. Pay attention to breathing, and that's where your meditation and yoga will come in. And praise yourself. You know, remind your child to always praise themselves for the things that they are doing right and for the healthy actions that they are making. Here are some additional resources. I do have some information down at the bottom for Kentucky mental health. And Sandy Hook is an anonymous line. That's good for, it's a website, but they can go in there, or if you know anyone who is thinking about having thoughts of suicide, you can go in there and submit an anonymous tip. And there is a Sandy Hook hotline in which someone will respond to that tip. I'm on the Sandy Hook initiative for HISD. And so when we have a student, a teacher, any concern, those calls come through me, and then I get the necessary people involved that can de-escalate those situations. So at this time, we have any questions? Thank you guys so much. Any questions?
My name is Arthur Black. I have a question. Well, it's not really a question, but okay. You were talking about people that needed help, and if they had a gun, and you had the bullet point, call 911. We know that is super racially biased.
Yep.
And
correct.
You see on the news here, Eastern Kentucky, guy can have a gun and be shooting at the state police, and they'll take him to jail in handcuffs. Now, urban areas with blacks, not so lucky. So, I mean, I understand that's an option, but it usually don't end too well for us, especially as black men.
Definitely. That definitely is a concern. In those situations, it would be great. And I know they're always talking about defunding the police, which I'm against. The funding needs to go towards having healthcare professionals available to help people in those situations. And that's where, you know, if someone is trained to de-escalate it, that is definitely the preference. The reason that we say call 911 is because if it becomes a threat, it changes the whole dynamics. But definitely right now, it does have there is a stigma in the community because of experience. There is a fear to call 911. And so in that situation, you would have to make a call of whether or not you're going to de-escalate it, and how would we go about de-escalating that? Because at some point it could become a safety risk for you as well. And so that's where the struggle comes in, if it becomes a safety issue for you as well as the person on the scene of trying to de-escalate the situation. So it's really a hard call. And right now we are, as a community, at a disadvantage. There's no doubt about that. And prayerfully we get some type of solution, and we get something in action in place to where we're getting social workers and mental health workers to go out and assist in those calls, as opposed to sending untrained law enforcement officers who are in panic or in fear. So, or have a team of law enforcement officers who are trained to respond to mental health issues versus just sending any untrained officer out. So it's definitely a situation that causes anxiety for even Black women, from like myself, you know, for my husband and my dad, and the Black men in my life. So yeah, definitely that is a concern, definitely.
This is Jerome. The other thing that I wanted to add to this, with the social media. Now, I know every parent is different. I know they raise the child different, but I think with the way things have gone in the last, 3 or 4 years, maybe even 5, is that I think they should either, my strong opinion, either limit it or have total control over that, where they're not exposed to these chat rooms and social media, because their minds have not quite developed. The stuff that I've read and what I have talked with other professions and what I've seen, from kids who are exposed to this, where they start to have these thoughts and thinking and start to think like that. So I think for any parent, that either limited or totally, cut out social media, because my strong opinion, I think it's a pathway of them don't want to talk with their parents, or if they are having these thoughts, this is what they rely on. And I think that can drive them either further down that road. So
Definitely. Anyone else? Thank you for sharing, Jerome.
thank you.
Any other questions for Danielle? I do want to say Jerome brings up an issue that's really important, because with social media and the news, and my kids are in college now, and I still talk to them about not taking in so much news with the, in the fall with the election and COVID and the rise in homicides in Lexington and things like that. I said, don't take in so much news, because, and Danielle knows this, that when our brain has 2 types of functions. We have the back part of the brain, which is called the fast brain, the amygdala, and then the front part, the prefrontal cortex. And that's where you process and make rational decisions. Well, that part of the brain, the front part, doesn't develop until you're like 23, 24 years old. And so we get all this information as teenagers, and we can't really process it. I wouldn't want to be a 17-year-old right now. We get so information so fast, we don't really know how to process that information because we're not there yet. And so just when all these things are going on the last 6 or 7 months, I just told mine, you know what? Put the phone down sometimes, turn the news off, watch some comedy, do whatever you want to do, and not intake all that information so much, because we can't really process it all the time. Is that a fair statement, Danielle?
Yes, definitely. And that's, yeah. And it's definitely, it develops at an older age for young men. So definitely monitoring, and being protective of what we're putting in to our bodies, definitely, and to our minds.
And down the road, we're going to do some stuff on emotional intelligence for our scholars also. in doing that. And one of the other strategies I've been using, like I said, mine are 19-year-old twins, is I've been using just giving them a different change of scenery. Because they've been on, been on class at UK virtually, just nonstop, and all they do is in front of computers and phones. And so what I've done is like, you know what, we're gonna run up to Cincinnati. We're gonna still quarantine. We're gonna just hang here, there, or go somewhere else where we're not around people, but just give them a different change of scenery to kind of reduce some of that anxiety. Because we be honest, we have our own anxiety right now as adults dealing with this. You can imagine a 14-year-old and how they're doing that. But if you have any more questions, we're going to first of all, we're gonna give yes, Dan.
I'm sorry. There was one more question about the African American community being overly identified or overly diagnosed. And yes, when we look at the population of our African American males in the school system, they are, right now we have indicator 14 in the state of Texas, and that indicator allows us to identify what kids are being identified as a child with a special ed disability. And those disabilities are incorporated with ADHD, bipolar, schizophrenia, all these other elements. They have identified that we are overly qualifying our African American males. And so what's happening is behavioral issues. They're putting kids, our young Black men, into behavioral units, in opposed to keeping them in the academic classroom. They are identifying them as bad early on, as early as kindergarten. They are starting to get identified with these behavioral issues a lot younger than our counterparts. So definitely our African American population is being overdiagnosed. I think when it comes to mental health and the medical aspect of it, we're not being diagnosed as much because because of the stigma of mental health. We're not seeking treatment as often. A lot of times we don't actually go and get that treatment in the medical aspect. But in the school setting, they're definitely being identified a lot younger. But we are being identified as having ADHD. So if we do get treatment, it's for ADHD. If we are getting identified medically, it's for the behavior disorders, in opposed to any other mental health disorder, is what the data has shown. So
that's very accurate, Danielle. The data supports that we're overrepresented in special education.
Mm-hmm.
It's special education, then medication, then incarceration, but we're underrepresented in getting mental health support. And there's a stigma, let's be honest, in the Black community that we don't want to admit that we may have mental health issues and things of that nature. So we don't seek out help and support like we should. So we're underrepresented in those kinds of things, but we're definitely overrepresented when it comes to special education within the school setting, as Danielle said. Any other thoughts, comments?
Yeah, just a comment. Yeah, this is what they was trying to do to me and my brother when we was going to school back in elementary, that my mom had to fight to say, no, my kids are not like this. They are well behaved. They're just being bad at these days or those moments, to put that stigma on it. So yeah, me and my brother, we dealt with that as well. This is back in the 70s. So yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people on here probably had a story like that doing special ed and things of that nature. So let's give Danielle a virtual hand for
Thank you,
providing this great
Danielle.
information.
Thank you guys so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.
So what we're going to do is we're going to segue this into our families and parents are going to ease off, and then you encourage your young men, our scholars, to come right on, to log on, and we're going to focus more on self-care with our young men. And then when this is over, I want you all to quiz them a little bit about what Danielle shared with them, and make them talk a little bit about what they got out of this, some takeaways.
Yeah.
Thank
This
you all.
is a great opportunity to have some family talk.
It is. It really is. And we all need it right now too, don't we?
Yeah.
So we'll wait on our scholars, and thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Danielle, can you save this into a PDF so we can email it out at some point?
Definitely. Definitely.
Okay. And Roz, we can email it out, and we can also put it on our website,
Yeah, we can put it on our website as well.
the presentation and the recording. Because people can go back to, that's a good thing about the recording. They can go back to that, and you know, the PowerPoint's great, but they can hear the recording and hear Danielle answering questions and fielding questions and things of that nature. Okay, I see the names changing. So they're coming on. Give them a few more minutes.
I'm admitting some now.
Roz, are you there?
I am Roger.
There is I guess some people got wind of this, that
Mhm.
we're having Danielle, and so we may want to consider opening it up, having another one open up to the community. A lot of
That'd be
us
fine.
parents, non-BMW parents,
That's fine. Right now, we're in a situation, we need to help everybody we can.
you got that right.
Yeah.
You got that right. So maybe early spring, Daniel, we may do this again. We'll see. We'll play it by ear. Okay, scholars, we're going to start in a minute or two.
Okay. Let me accept, admit all of these.
Good morning, scholars.
Good morning.
Okay, we're going to.
Good morning.
Good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. And so, good morning, scholars. Glad you all are signed on. We have a lot of things going on in Lexington these days, as you all know. COVID-19 and social injustices and the aftermath of the election and all these different things going on. And you all in virtual classrooms not get to interact with your friends and things like that. So we thought about having a conversation today about what are some things you all can do to address some of the challenges that you are experiencing right now. And so we invited Mrs. Danelle Lewis. She's from the Houston, Texas area. She does a lot of work with youth and working through their challenges and things of that nature. So she's going to share some information with you all. Make sure you mute your mic so you all can hear her. And also, as she goes through her presentation, feel free to populate the chat space with some questions if you have some. She'll periodically ask you if you have some questions during her presentation. If you want to unmute and ask her a question during the presentation, that's fine also. So let's welcome Ms. Danelle Lewis.
Good morning, scholars. I am so excited to be here with you young men. How is everyone today? How's everyone doing? Can you guys hear me?
Good.
Awesome. Good. That's so awesome to hear. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. As Dr. Cleveland stated, my name is Danelle Lewis. I'm from the great state of Texas. I am a mental health first aider instructor. And today we're going to be talking about protecting your mental health. What can you do to protect your mental health? Okay. If at any time you have any questions, please feel free to unmute your mic or go into the chat and type up your question.
Danelle, you may have a few folks in the waiting room.
Okay, let me check. Okay, let's see. Oh, here we go. Participants. I don't see anyone waiting at this time.
Okay.
I'll check back in a second to see. Okay. All right. So today you will be talking about connecting and navigating change to build resilience. When we look at that element, we're going to be looking at how we bounce back from being in this COVID world. Typically our youth, you guys are resilient. So when something happens, you have the ability to bounce back. And so today we'll be talking about that. Opportunities to connect and navigate change and heal and build the resiliency. How do we build that bounce back? Created a safe and supportive environment for you and those around you, you and your friends. How do we build that environment around you? I'm sorry, I'm letting someone in. Give me just a second. I'm trying to be computer savvy. I probably need you young men to come over here and help me with my computer literacy. I know this young generation, y'all are awesome at computers and technology. Ms. Danelle is still learning a little. All right. Help you feel connected, empowered, supported, and valued by cultivating collective self-care. So what is the norms? We need to extend grace to each other, extend some patience, be patient with one another. Everybody's going through the same thing with this time in COVID. And so we should be patient with each other. Stay engaged. How do we stay engaged? We have FaceTime. We have Google Duo. We have text messaging where we can text message each other. We even have email. There are like social media outlets for some who are allowed to have those outlets. So we do have means of, I'm sorry, I was allowing someone else in. I'm trying to, obviously I'm not getting, let's see. It keeps changing. Okay, so we're going to extend grace. Speak your truth and respect others, and expect and accept non-closure. Be honest and experience discomfort. Does anyone know what experiencing discomfort means? What does that mean to you when you think about COVID and the things that you're typically doing? What does experiencing discomfort might mean to you? Does anyone want to talk about that? What it might mean to experience discomfort? Okay. So to experience discomfort during this time is meaning to be out of your comfort zone. So our comfort zones typically is what? We're going to school. We wake up in the morning, we maybe pack a lunch, we get lunch money, we maybe eat breakfast, we get to school, we socialize with our friends, we go to class, we learn, we go home. Now it's uncomfortable. Now everything is being done from our home. So experiencing discomfort means getting out of that zone of what you're used to, getting out of the zone of what you're comfortable with. So being honest is being honest with those feelings. You know, express those feelings to your parents. Let them know, right now I'm stressed because I miss my friends. I'm stressed right now because I want to go to the mall. I want to go to the movies. I want to go to the skating ring. Whatever those situations may be, express those and be honest with you and be honest with those around you and those that are there in order for them to be able to help you. So when we think about the check-in, check-up, and check-out, so we want to talk about self-awareness, and that's recognizing your emotions and recognizing them either as a strength or a challenge. But what are you feeling? You know, the check-in process is, how do you feel? What are you feeling today? So let's go ahead and we're going to go to the next slide. And I want you to think about 2 words that describe how you are feeling right now in this moment today. I'm going to give you some time to think about that. And then I want you to think about what would you consider your biggest challenge right now? So what I want you to do is, if you have a cell phone, or if you have your internet browser, you can do one of 2 things. You can go to polev.com/social in emo 393. Can everyone see that at the top of the screen? Or you can text the number 2233 and in the text box, put social and emotional emo 393. And I'm going to give everybody a second to do that. The instructions is at the top of your screen. If you're unable to see that, please let me know.
Yeah, we can't see it.
Oh, okay. And I'm not sure. Can you see it now? No?
Nah. Can you put it possibly
I'll put it in the text
chat?
in the
Yeah.
chat. Yes, I can do that.
Hold on, fellas.
I'm trying to use some technology with you guys.
They appreciate it.
Okay, so this is you're going to text that number, and then in the message box, you're going to put social and emo 393. And it's in the chat. And if you don't have access to text messaging, you're going to email, you can do it you can go to that website. And once you get it, it'll send you a response saying that you're in. Once you're in, I want you to type in 2 words that describe how you're feeling. Once you're in, type in 2 words that describe how you're feeling. Has anyone been able to get in yet? Has anyone been able? Has anyone been able to get in?
Yeah, they're starting to get in now.
Okay, great. That's awesome.
A couple of them
Great. All right, great. I'm trying to figure out how to turn my, oh, there we go. Oh. Let's see. I'm not sure what I just did. There we go. Did I just? Okay. All right, and so when we look at this list, thank you guys for typing. So the larger letters, the larger words when we're looking at this list tells us how most people are feeling right now. I'm going to allow some more people to enter. So when we see this, what is some words that stand out to you guys? What is something that we see that just about a lot of people are feeling right now? What is a word that we see that's standing out?
I can't see any words.
Disagreement.
Yeah, the words are not up there.
Okay, let me try. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to try to share it from my desktop and see if that will correct the issue. I think I was sharing from the PowerPoint initially. So we're going to try the desktop. Can you guys see it now?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Okay, so I had to share the desktop in order to see it. Thank you so much for responding. Okay, so when we see this, what are the words that we see that stand out? How are we feeling today?
Tired.
Tired.
Happy.
Yes. So we can all agree that right now we're tired and we're happy. So what does that say? What does it mean to be tired? What are you tired of? Are you tired because you didn't rest? What's making you feel tired?
Full.
It's happening in 2020.
Everything of school, everything about 2020. Go ahead.
You're just waking up.
Yes, just waking up. You sound like me. It's rough for me in the mornings. So every morning I get up, I'm a little draggy, I'm a little tired, definitely. We're tired from 2020. We're tired from school. So this year has been pretty exhausting. What's making you happy today? What about today is making you feel happy? Anyone?
It's the weekend.
That is the weekend. So no school. You get to relax and unwind. Anyone else?
Being with my mom.
Being with your mom.
Life.
Good. Say that again, Zachariah. So definitely the weekend, being with your other parents, maybe just relaxing, watching the movies. And we see a lot of different words here. We see that some people are feeling empty. You know, we see that some people are feeling sluggish. Some people are feeling healthy, irritated. Some people are overwhelmed. This year has been completely overwhelming, exhausted. Some people are hungry. You know, it's breakfast time. It's right now here it's 10 o'clock, but where you guys are, it's 11. So it's lunchtime. So you're hungry. Some people are sleepy. You just woke up, you're trying to get going. But this gives us an idea of we are not alone. This shows us that we are not alone, that everybody is feeling something. We're all feeling. Some of us are feeling enthusiastic. Some of us are feeling blessed. Some of us are annoyed. Some of us are stressed. Some of us are confident. Some of us are relaxed. Some are irritated. But at the end of the day, we're not alone. We're all feeling. And we have to remember that when we're going through the motions of everything in 2020, when we're going through the motions of COVID and we're going through the motions of isolation, everybody is going through the motion. Everyone is feeling. Everybody is feeling something different at every moment, but we're all feeling. And that's something you have to remind yourself daily. I am not alone. This is something that we're all being involved in. And if you remind yourself of that, it makes the challenge a little bit more bearable. It makes it a little easier to deal with. And it makes you know that at the end of the day, we will all overcome it. We will all at some point be out of this and be able to be around our friends and to not only be exhausted from being at home on the computer at school all day, but being out with our friends at school. I see, so tired and happy is how most people are feeling. I'm trying to get to my next slide. There we go. Okay, so now I want you to, the same thing, but this time you're gonna put, we can actually discuss this one or you can text it. Lisa Perez 253, and you're gonna text the number 37607. And in that message, you're gonna do the same thing. And this time you're gonna tell me, what would you consider your biggest challenge right now? What would be your biggest challenge? Right now, if you had a challenge, what would be the biggest challenge that you're experiencing right now? You can also put things in the chat if you don't have the access to some people. In our last question about emotion, right now people are saying work is the biggest challenge. Someone has a dog's birthday. That is awesome. Happy birthday to your dog, Memphis. Give your dog a big huge hug for me. I am a dog lover. I have 2 fur babies, Molly and Bradley. So definitely anyone else? Let's see. COVID. So school, trying to find something to do is what one person said. Let's see. Some of it is getting cut off. Finding something new, because after being at home, I'm reading the chat messages as well. So it's been after being at home all day, you're stuck in the house, you're trying to find something to do. Applying for scholarships, that's huge. Good luck with that. Going colleges and scholarships, good luck with that. Not being able to go outside as much. So when you say not being able to go outside, Bryson, give me a little bit about that. Is it because of COVID? I mean, can you go outside like in the yard, or what's, you're not being able to go out and about? How does that make you feel? What does that look like for you, Bryson, not being able to go outside much? What does it look like for you? Okay, so, okay. All right. Thank you for sharing, Bryson. So you were a little on edge and you didn't in the event, um, so you wanted to make sure that with your friends. Okay. Well, I'm hoping that you feel better really soon and that cough goes away. Jordan says school. Not being able to let out anger is what someone else said. Making a pizza assembly line. Pizza making assembly line. So if we think about it, we're all experiencing some type of challenge, right? Everybody's value and challenge is different. Everybody thinks of a challenge different. We don't all see it the same exact way, right? Everybody sees it a little differently when we're looking at challenges. But at the end of the day, every single one of us is experiencing a challenge. So trying to do homework from your Chromebook into on paper. So everybody's having a challenge in one way or another. Thank you guys for sharing. All right, so now let's look at some wellness dimensions. Let's talk about wellness. What does emotional wellness look like? Emotional wellness is coping effectively with life and creating satisfying relationships. And so when we think about relationships, we're not talking about relationship boyfriend, girlfriend. We're not talking about any of that. When we're talking about relationships, we're talking about with your peers, your best friend, with your mom, with your dad, with your brother. Building those great relationships, those satisfying relationships emotionally. Spiritually, that may be going to church. Right now, we're unable to go to church, but how many of us are attending church online? How many of us are getting our inspiration from online or from some type of other outlet? And if you want to put it in the chat, you can, or if you want to put it, one person said, not them, but some people may be getting that spiritual connection, intellectual, recognizing creative abilities and finding ways to expand your knowledge and skills. So when we're stuck in the house, we have to find ways to be creative. That may be going outside and playing football with your mask on with your friends. That may be learning to make pizza. That may be learning to bake a cake. You have to find creative ways to actually get yourself going. Reading books, learning about things that interest you. It might be learning about putting a motor in a car. What interests you? What is some creative things that someone said drawing, someone said the parking lot service. So everybody's finding some way to be creative. Everybody's finding a means of creativity, of learning the intellectual. Physical, taking care of your body. What are some things that we do to take care of our bodies? What are some things that you're doing right now to take care of your body? Is anyone sleeping? I like it. Eating healthy. Brushing your teeth. Yes, because you know what? Being in the house all day, what is the one thing you forget to do? Brush your teeth. I mean, you wake up, you have nowhere to go. That is taking a shower. The day-to-day activities that we take for granted are the things that we're forgetting to, like the day-to-day things we're forgetting to do. Because it's out of our routine. Family time. I like it. That's family time. Eating a banana. Bananas are good for a lot of things in your body. Potassium. It's a healthy fruit. I like it. Exercising. I love exercising. So that's always my go-to for my health and wellness. That's always my go-to to help my mind whenever I'm stressed. I do some yoga. Riding my bike. Yes, riding your bike throughout the neighborhood, or if you have a stationary bike, riding it at home. Those are all great things to do for your functional health and wellness. Thank you guys so much for sharing. All right, in the environment, let me let some people in. Okay, in the environment, occupying, stimulating the environment, things that support the well-being. So it could just be outside smelling the flowers, taking in a good, nice breath of fresh air, just going outside. Financial, if you have a part-time job, if you're working somewhere, let's say you get money for doing chores, that would be a means of you having financial stability. That would be a means of you satisfying the finances. Occupational, some of you may work, I know that in Kentucky, everything is closed, but if you work in a restaurant, you may actually be able to go in to the restaurant. And then social, being able to connect with each other online like we're doing now, on Zoom, on Duo, on FaceTime, on Facebook, on Instagram, however your means is for communicating with your friends. Practicing football. So everyone has a means of having the 8 dimensions of wellness. And we don't think about it. We just naturally do this every day. Every day we make a habit of being well every single day. So what are some self-care versus coping skills? Self-care is any activity that we partake in that is deliberate in order to care for our emotional, mental, and physical well-being. Coping skills are the tools that we use that can handle different emotions, decrease stress, and establish or maintain a sense of internal order. So when we look at those two, we have self-care, and we have coping. Now, can they overlap? Definitely. Can our self-care be our coping skill? Absolutely. That would happen if you are doing yoga. Yoga can help you do self-care, but it can also help you cope with your problems. And so you have to think about things either together, or you could think about doing them apart. And so when we think about coping skills apart, what can I do if I'm stuck in the house and I'm having a meltdown because I can't go outside? What do I do to cope? Do I slow it down, take some deep breaths, bring myself together, which brings us right back to self-care. So it just remember, it all overlaps. When we learn to cope, we learn to have self-care for ourselves. Does any of my fellas out there have any self-care things that you're doing? Whether it's yoga, whether it's reading a book, rather I know massages are closed, but it might be like someone said, remembering to take a shower. Taking a shower might be your self-care, just to relax. Maybe massaging your face a little bit. What are we doing for any of our self-care or coping skills during this time? Music. I love it, Jordan. Yes, definitely music. And William, I like that. So he's allowing his self-care to be done with some social interaction. His self-care is being done with his sister. They're doing math together. Singing. I love it. So all of these things bring you joy. They help you to deal with what you're going through, but they're also bringing you joy. And the key is to remember that during these difficult times, we have to slow down and we have to bring ourselves some joy. Gaming, biking, bike riding, and running. Yes, all of those things are for you. So they not only help you with your self-care, they also help with the skills that you need for coping. Thank you guys for sharing. So the key is to make you a priority. Take time for yourself. Stay hydrated, putting your health first. So you have to make sure that you have time for yourself. Emotional healthy people help create emotionally healthy relationships. So if you're healthy and you're doing things to make yourself healthy and to take care of yourself during this time, then the people around you are going to be healthy. So we are a reflection of the people we're around. And so if we're doing things like, I love the idea of doing the math with your sister, because what's happening, you're building that emotional healthy relationship. You are doing something together. So in the process, we're building those bonds. Create opportunities to make self-care a priority. I like to put it in my calendar and schedule it like a doctor's appointment. Today at this time, I'm going to run. Today at this time, I'm going to meditate. I make a habit of meditating every night before I go to bed. That's my way of unwinding, reflecting, and taking my mental health as a priority for myself. I breathe, I relax, I make it a priority. And sometimes I fall asleep right after doing it. Most of the times I don't, but I have had time to reflect and make myself number one. And take time to adjust to this new normal. Everybody's adjusting to the new norm. It's a struggle for everyone. Some states are back, to being open like we are here in Texas, and others like Kentucky, y'all are still on a shutdown or y'all still on a lockdown. But everybody's dealing with something. I think here in Texas, we are at 50% capacity for businesses. We were at 75, but with the increased cases, they brought it down to 50 again. So it's a new norm. You're not going out to eat. You're lacking social interaction. So it's a lot of new norms going on. We have any questions? I'm trying to get to the chat. Okay. Thank you. Okay, we must train our brains to breathe first before we respond or react. So what that means is that you're going to slow it down before you do anything. So you slow down, you learn to breathe, you learn to relax. So now we're going to do it. I want you to close your eyes, or you can just look in front of you, but the key is to relax. Put one hand on your belly and the other on your heart. Feel how your hands rise and fall with each breath. Take a breath in, count to 4. Feeling the hand on your belly move with your breath. Hold your breath, count to 7. Exhale, counting to 8. And now we're going to repeat. Let's do that one more time. Make sure your hand is over your heart and your other hand is on your belly. Take a deep breath in and count to 4. Hold your breath for 7. Exhale slowly, counting to 8. We're going to do it one more time. Inhale, counting to 4. Hold it for 7. Exhale, counting to 8. And relax. How did that make you feel? Does anyone feel a little bit more relaxed? If you do that throughout your day, it does allow you to feel more relaxed. Did anyone feel more relaxed? Let's see. Really relaxed, yes. And so that little bit of time that we did allowed us to focus on ourselves and allowed us to relax. And so when your anxiety builds up from dealing with school online, because that can be frustrating. You have to deal with technology. You're dealing with lack of interaction. You may have someone on the Zoom who's not behaving in the classroom. So you have so many elements. Take that time. And really, it's good to put your hand over your heart and put your hand on your belly. But even if you didn't do that and you just sat at your desk during the school day and did that exact same thing, looking at the computer, but just take that time out to relax, you will see a change in your day. You will see how your body relaxes, how you feel a little bit better. And so try to make a habit to just breathe a little bit every day. Okay, let me move this over. Normalizing self-care strategies and make them a part of your culture. And so that's what we were talking about, normalizing it, making you being a priority a part of your everyday lifestyle. I don't think I have anyone in the waiting room. I'll check in a second. Okay, so what are some of the current challenges? Hybrid instruction is a challenge. Being an essential worker, if you work at a restaurant or a grocery store, you're an essential worker, whether you're part-time, full-time, whether it's 1 hour a day or 30 hours a week, 30 hours a week, you are still an essential worker. We need you there. And so that could be a challenge. That can be stressful because you're around other people, but it also can be rewarding because you are getting a little bit of social interaction. Family commitments and responsibility, a dedicated space for hybrid instruction sometimes is a challenge because not everyone have extra space in their home to allow space for a classroom. Lack of motivation and engagement. It's hard to be motivated to sit at the computer sometimes and do your schoolwork. And so that can be a challenge. And then your relationship with your family and friends, you're only interacting with the people in your home. And so you're not seeing maybe your cousins, y'all not hanging out as much, or you're not seeing your best friend as much. And so those all can have can all be a challenge on your day-to-day activities. Okay, I'm trying to move this down. There we go, to make sure I don't have anyone in the chat and no one's waiting. Thank you guys for your patience. All right, so how do we build strong relationships? Make a connection between home and academic community. So that'll be between your people in your house and the people that you would go to school with. But right now you're not out in school, so that changes a little bit of that dynamics. Learn about it, include and celebrate small gains and success. You made it to online classroom every day this week. Celebrate that. That's something to be celebrated. You stayed on for 6 hours. You stayed on for 8 hours. Celebrate that element. Make sure you're celebrating yourself. Create activities and experiences to foster relationships. Do something with your friends on Zoom. That might be, maybe y'all can do an art project where you're talking through the activity. Find something to do to make it fun, and resolve conflict in agreement and disagreements through an empathetic lens. So if you're having an argument, which probably right now you're not with anyone, but if you are, maybe you're agitated and your friend FaceTime you and you're just, call them back and apologize. Encourage a positive relationship with them. Or if they've done something to you, allow them that compassion and empathy and grace to actually mend the relationship. Make sure no one's up here. Okay. So navigating the path to building a relationship. So we're going to just touch on a few of these. Reach out and check in with your friends. Don't always wait on people to check in with you. Reach out. Hey, I know we're in the house. How are you doing, bud? Check on people. Check on your grandparents. Check on your aunts. Check on your cousins, your uncles. Check on people. Make sure people are doing okay. Everybody's dealing with the same thing. So just make that effort of checking on people. Host a social event. You might not be able to be together, but guess what? You can have a Christmas party right here on the forum, on Zoom. Invite all your friends, have hot chocolate. You can even do like a Amazon gift card where you get the addresses to your friends and mail them a gift card and have them open it. It doesn't have to be anything expensive. $5 go a long way. So think of ways that you can interact with people and not only help you, but help them, help their mental health along with helping your mental health, and extend grace. Let's just be patient with each other, be patient with ourselves, because we're all going through it together. So what are some engaging activities that we can do? Daily check-ins, share and tells. So when we were little kids, I don't know if at your age, if y'all did this, but we used to have the show and tell, where you came to school, you brought something and you talked about it. Do that with your friends. Have a share and tell, or talk about your experiences, talk about what you're going through. Make sure that y'all are communicating. Daily check-ins and inspiring messages. My thing is every morning I send out a scripture with a little passage to my family. Every morning, that's my way of saying good morning, I love you. I usually send it around 10ish. And if it's gotten to the point where if I haven't sent it by 10:30, they're texting me, hey, where is my prayer? Hey, where is this? Hey, where is that? Take time to let people know that you care, because they become dependent on that, and you can be the one little piece of light that changes their whole day, and I don't even have to see them to do that. So think about things that you can do to build the relationships, to provide self-care for you, and to encourage someone else. Does anyone do anything that you could think of that you do maybe on a daily basis, whether it's checking in on your parent? Hey, mom, how was your day? How are you doing today? I know now it's a little different, but does anyone do any type of check-in with anyone during this time of COVID? Are you how do you encourage people around you? Are you doing anything in those areas? Okay. Oh, okay. So someone said they check in with their parents. People are saying they check in with their grandparents, friends, and cousins. I love it. And it's good because, especially our grandparents, they're alone. They're lonely. And I like Xavier says his family does a Sunday Zoom every Sunday. I bet that's an awesome experience to be able to see your family just like you would on Sunday lunch or dinner, but be able to interact with them with Zoom and checking on your grandparents. I love how you guys are making that initiative to check on your grandparents and your family. And I love that. That is so awesome. So y'all keep doing it. That is awesome. Thank you for sharing. So leading in uncertain times. So like I said, you're going to be the leading of the motivation and inspiration and the self-care. So just make sure that in the event that you do check on somebody and they're having a hard time, that you just listen. Sometimes they don't need you to talk, just listen. And so that would be providing that grace, provide support, demonstrate empathy. And then you're already being models. That's what I love about you guys. Y'all are already being models. Y'all are modeling for your peers. Check on your grandparents, check on your mom, interact with your families. So y'all are doing all the right things. Now, this picture, this little boy is just laid out. Do any of you feel like that sometimes during the day when you're in the classroom and they're on there and you just feel like you just want to lay out? I can guarantee you we have all felt like that. Yes, yes, and yes. We have all felt like that because during COVID, you're sitting on a computer. Eventually, you want to just lay out, right? And so that's when we go back to that technique, that breathing technique. And this explains, this is basically how we are all feeling in 2020. We are all tired. We're all exhausted. And we just want to get out and be free and do something else. So self-care is how you take your power back. So let's talk about, this is like a fun break. Have you ever tried a headstand? Has anybody in the group tried a headstand before? Anybody tried a headstand? I'm trying to get the chat to, there we go. Headstand, handstand, any of that. It's a challenge. Because if you're afraid of heights, you might not want to be upside down. So whenever you get a chance, you don't have to do a full headstand. But what I want you to do, if you have like a chair, just lean over, allow your body to be on your hands with your head down in between them, and allow your muscles to just relax. And the benefits of that is it relieves stress, increases focus, it strengthens your shoulders and arms, and it strengthens your core muscles, and it helps with self-care. Oh, you can do a handstand. Awesome, Kaden. That takes a lot of strength to get yourself up and hold yourself in a handstand. But those are good. Even if you have to use a box or a chair, just try to do that for a little bit in your day, allowing the blood to rush a little bit to your head and allowing it to relax your shoulders and do a little bit of breathing. That is also a good little technique in order to relieve the stress and anxieties that are being caused through COVID. So let's have a brain break. So what we're going to do is you're going to get your fingers, make sure they're clean, and you're going to just start tapping. So you're going to tap under your eyes, all the way to your nose, above your eyebrows, to the top of your forehead, go around your face, then go down to your neck, to your collarbones, and work your way back up. And then go clockwise on your temples. And this is a great way to relieve stress, to keep you from getting headaches when you're overwhelmed. Excuse me. If you're feeling a little stressed out, it's a great way, excuse me, to minimize the stressors that we usually get where our face gets tight. Every now and again, I'll get where my teeth will clench if I get too overwhelmed. So this is something I like to do. And just go around your face, go under your eyes, go to your nose, go back up, go around again, back to your neck, your collarbone, even tap your shoulders, come back up, and do a little bit on your temples. Did anyone enjoy that? Did anyone get a little relaxed like you did with the breathing? Or did you like the breathing a little bit better? Give me your feedback. They're both good for relaxation. Your collarbone is this little bone right here. Excuse me. Okay, so some people like the breathing better, but they're both relaxing. So if you have a headache, this tapping would probably be more beneficial. You have a headache and your temples, whereas if you're just overwhelmed, the breathing would benefit you a little bit more. Thank you guys for your feedback. So another good thing to look at is what can you eat on that may help you with your anxiety and stress. And so we have some candies here. And so we're just gonna go over a few of them. So like Pop Rocks. I know we like those Pop Rocks. They get in there, they pop, 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 pop. That sensation that you feel, it helps to enliven your breathing so that it increases the sensations. So it's a little relaxation in there, but it's also opening up your senses. It's also getting your senses alive, awakening your senses. Blowing bubbles forces you, with the bubble gum, forces you to pause. And it forces you to take some breaths, and it makes you relax. So when you think about candies, don't always just think about it, oh, I'm just getting a snack. There are benefits, just like Hershey Kisses, the chocolate, it makes you happy. So think about benefits you're getting from candies in opposed to just eating the candy. Lollipops keep you healthy. Lollipops are used to be administered, like if you have to take medications or anything, sometimes they put it on the lollipop. So there's different things you can do with the candy, but like a lollipop, it's, just relaxing your muscles, it's relieving the stress. And so that's some positives when you're talking about candy. Remember, the Pop Rocks open up your senses. Bubble gum allows you to relax your mouth. It gets your jaws to going, so that relieves the stress. So think about those things when you're eating candy. How is this candy benefiting me? Am I just eating it because it tastes good? Or is it something that I can eat and it make me feel a little better? So think about that whenever you're thinking about candies. And you think about anything you're putting in your body. So when you get angry, what are some of the things that's causing you to feel angry? Do you agree with this, that these are things that cause you to feel angry? Fear, anxiety, frustration, confusion, shame. sometimes that causes you to feel angry. And so again, when you start feeling angry, you want to go back to those strategies, go back to that breathing, go back to this, the sensations, go back to the things that make you feel relaxed. Because right now in COVID, we getting angry. We have, and some of that anger is caused by fear. Some of it is caused by frustration, because why? We're in the house, we can't leave, we're stuck here. And so I feel like we're all feeling a little bit of that anger. And remember, it's a process. Self-care is a process. So take back your power, find your stress, take back your power and find your strength. I want you to feel just how strong you really are. When you do find it, I don't want you to settle for anything less ever again. Remember, you are strong. Remember, this is a time of strength. This is a time of endurance. This is a time that you have to take care of yourself. Excuse me. And now I have some helpful resources. So if you have, I'll give this list, or we'll make it into a PDF, and we'll go ahead and these resources are things that if you are struggling with anything, there's some crisis hotlines, there's some mental health hotlines, there's an anonymous tip if you're overwhelmed and you need some additional help. These will help you. Or if you have friends, let's say a friend call you and they're like, I just can't do this anymore, I'm done with life. Here are some resources you can give them. Hey, why don't you call, the crisis hotline, and someone there can help you. I don't know the right things to say, but these people can help you. Do we have any questions?
Any questions, scholars? Okay, if you don't have any questions, what we're going to do to make sure that that you have gained some knowledge out of this process is, I need everyone to populate the chat one takeaway from Ms. Danielle's conversation with you all. What is one takeaway that you can share with your family and friends? Basically, just put in the chat, what is one takeaway? Each person put one takeaway in there. Okay, take breaks to relax, make connections. All right, that's good. Y'all making Miss Danielle happy.
Very happy.
Okay.
A way to relax whenever I get stressed, ways to relax myself. Sometimes I like it. Sometimes congratulate and small things. Yes. Check in on family. I love the feedback. I'm glad you guys are going to learn to take breaks and relax when you're stressed. That is huge. And if you learn that now, being an adult is going to be a little bit easier, because you'll have those tools already in your toolbox, is what I like to call it. Stop overthinking about everything. Definitely, this is not the time to overthink. This is the time to slow it down and breathe. Love yourself before you can love someone else. Definitely, that is huge. You have to demonstrate that love to you before you can demonstrate it to anyone else. You guys are awesome. You are some awesome scholars, and I'm so proud of each and every one of you.
Okay, scholars, what we're going to do is first we want to thank Ms. Danielle for spending some time with us. Give her a virtual congratulations and thank you. And I want you to really think about a lot of things that she shared with you all, especially during these times. You're about to get a break in a second. We're going to take a break, a winter break. So I want you to take advantage of that. Also, you probably have some exams and finals and things like coming up. Let Ms. Akins and I know if you need any kind of assistance or any other kind of help, you let us know. And Ms. Roz, you have any comments before our scholars leave out? Okay. I'll take that as a no. All right, if all hearts and minds are clear, I want you all to have a good weekend, and make sure we're going to share this presentation, the PowerPoint with you all, and the recording with you and your family members. And so if you forgot some things, we'll get the PowerPoint to you all. They'll probably be on the website, and it'll be emailed out to you all also. All right, you all have a great weekend.
And thank you, scholars, for sharing your Saturday with me.
And we'll touch base with you all. All right. You can sign off now. Goodbye.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
You too. Thank you. Bye. I guess I could turn off now. Here we go.
And then you want to make me host again? Just click by my name and hit more.
Sure. Okay. Bingo.
All right.
Your host.
I'm host now. I'm official.
It's funny because no matter how many times you do the Zoom, you still end up having little glitches, no matter how many.
Oh, yeah.
If it goes perfect one time, I consider it a win.
And you always go to some point in time, you start talking and you realize you're on mute. That's at least once a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that was good, though. It's good information. It's timely information also. Timely information and well needed. So I appreciate it, and we'll get back with you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem.
It's still recording. Oh, you're a host, so you have to stop the recording. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it.
Okay.
All right.
Talk
Thank
to you
you.
later. Okay,
all right.
bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.